the city had just begun to stir, its breath heavy with smoke from the steel plants across the river. In a cramped apartment on 109th Street, Malik tied his work boots with fingers cracked from cold and labor. The siren had not even sounded yet, but he was already late. He kissed his mother's forehead. She was still asleep on the worn-out couch, and stepped outside into a morning that promised nothing. At the plant, the supervisor nodded at Malik but handed the prime welding job to someone else. Jason, white, fresh out of vocational school. Malik was told to clean out the waste pits again. "We just go in with experience today," the foreman said without meeting his eyes. But Malik had more years than most in that plant. His father died on that same floor, lungs filled with chemicals no one warned him about. The truth was simple. His skin made people look the other way. That night, a fire broke out in the East Housing projects. The media called it an unfortunate accident, but Malik knew the wiring had been faulty for years. Complaints were ignored, too expensive to fix things for them. Children died. His neighbor, Mrs. Harmon, lost her son. And still, the city slept. Malik stood at the edge of the ruins as smoke curled into the moonlight. He dropped a flower, then another. The petals turned to ash before they touched the ground. On Monday, Malik walked his little sister, Amina, to school. Her backpack bounced on her shoulders, full of broken pencils and hand-me-down notebooks. She was bright, brighter than anyone Malik knew. She asked too many questions, loved the stars, and dreamed of becoming an astronaut. But when they reached the gates of Jefferson Elementary, Malik saw the same cracked paint, the same flickering hallway lights, the same missing heater that never got replaced. Inside, Amina was one of 2 black kids in her grade. When she raised her hand, she was called distracting. When she corrected the teacher, she was sent to the office. "They don't want her to shine," Malik whispered to himself as he watched from across the street, his hands in his pockets. "But she's gonna burn bright anyway." It started small, just 20 people. Malik and Amina, Mrs. Harmon, even some of the kids from the plant. They marched past the fire-damaged housing, past the school, past the city hall steps, where no one had ever listened. Signs held high. "Fix our homes, teach our kids, we bleed the same." By sunset, the crowd had tripled, then doubled again. Reporters showed up. Police, too, standing stone-faced, hands near holsters. Malik stepped forward, heart pounding. He didn't have a speech, just the truth. "We're not asking to be better," he said, voice raw. "We're asking to be treated like we matter, because we do." That night, the streets of Eastbridge were quieter than usual. Not out of peace, out of pause. The city had seen marches before, but something about this one lingered in the air, like the echo of a song you can't forget. Malik sat with Amina on the cracked stoop of their building, a thermos of cocoa between them. Her eyes, usually full of questions, now stared at the stars. "They looked scared," she said softly. "The police." Malik nodded. "Because we're not supposed to know our power." She looked at him, head tilted. "But we didn't do anything bad." "We didn't," he said. "We planted something. Even if they try to burn it down tomorrow, the seeds are in the ground now." A week later, a letter came to their mailbox. Not the kind from a bill collector or a charity asking for donations, but a real letter, on thick paper, with an official seal. It was from the Department of Education. Malik tore it open. It said, "We have received concerns regarding disparities at Jefferson Elementary School. An investigation is now underway. Thank you for your voice." He showed it to Amina, who smiled for the first time in days. "You think they'll listen?" she asked. "I don't know," Malik replied, "but I know they can't unhear us now." Spring came late that year, like a hesitant apology, but it came. The cold began to lift, and with it, so did something else, something heavier than frost. Malik, with his worn gloves and a borrowed shovel, stood behind the old abandoned lot on Clay Street. It had once been a dumping ground for forgotten things, bent shopping carts, broken bottles, and discarded dreams. Now it was becoming something else. He and Amina had posted signs on the school bulletin board: Community Garden Project, Planting Power, Bring Seeds, Bring Hope. And they came. Mr. Gerald from down the hall brought compost in old paint buckets. Mrs. Louise from the corner shop donated basil and green onion sprouts. Kids from Jefferson Elementary came too, some shy, some loud, but all curious. Even Principal Donovan showed up, unsure of what to say. Malik didn't force conversation. He just handed him a trowel. The garden didn't fix everything. The investigation was still ongoing. The district meetings were still tense. The news cycle had moved on. But in that lot on Clay Street, something was growing, something untouchable. Malik adjusted at his collar. The tie itched. The room was too cold, and the air smelled like old paper and nervous sweat. Across the table sat 6 members of the Eastbridge Education Equity Committee, 5 white, 1 black, all stiff with politeness. "We've reviewed your petition," said the chairwoman, an older woman with pearl earrings and a voice like a well-polished knife. "Your concerns regarding Jefferson Elementary are troubling." Malik kept his tone calm. "It's not just about books or lunch programs. It's about how our kids are made to feel invisible, how they're taught to sit quietly in a system that doesn't see them." He could feel Amina's eyes on his back from the visitors section. He wasn't speaking only for her. He was speaking for Jamal, suspended for talking back, for Maya, told her hair was distracting, and for Mrs. Thompson, who'd been teaching Black history from photocopies because the school wouldn't buy the books. The chairwoman cleared her throat. "The board will deliberate. Thank you for your passionate presentation." A month passed, then another, and then came the notice. Jefferson Elementary would undergo a full audit, not just financial, but curricular, disciplinary, demographic, the kind of audit that unearthed the roots. Amina danced around the apartment with the letter in her hand. Malik smiled, but the smile came with weight. Change was beginning, but change never comes clean. Outside in the schoolyard, children ran, laughed, tripped over the same cracked concrete. But this time, someone had spray-painted words across the wall that no one dared wash off. "We see you." The courtroom was silent when Delilah took the stand. Her voice did not shake. It didn't need to. The truth had its own thunder. "I watched my brother scream for breath with 3 knees on his back," she said. Each word weighted like iron. And the street didn't just swallow his cry. It swallowed his future. The prosecutor remained still. The defense shuffled papers. But it didn't matter, because something had shifted in the room. A stillness, a reckoning, a flame catching on old, dry lies. Outside, the city waited, protest signs held up like shields, streets painted with hope and heartbreak, murals of the fallen standing taller than any monument. And when the verdict came, guilty on all counts, the air trembled, not from celebration, but from the sheer release of years of silence, of knees, of locked doors, and whispered prayers. Delilah walked down those courthouse steps, not as a symbol, not as a martyr, but as a sister, carrying the ashes of her brother's name and planting them in the soil of change. Because the sidewalk remembers. And now, so does the world.